Good evening, it's Dave at All Things Imported Reviews, and I've got with me today a Citizen dive watch, a Citizen Eco Drive diver. Now the actual model is called the Promaster Divers Eco Drive BN0150-61E. Now for anyone who doesn't know Citizen's terminology, Eco Drive means that it is solar powered. So there is a solar cell that charges up the battery, which means that you've basically got a rechargeable battery that'll last for years and years. My guesstimate would be it would last between 5 to 10 years under normal use. My guesstimate, I do know with Casio's technology, I've seen it on the forums, some of them have gone over 10 to 15 years. This is Citizen, a very respectable company. It has, I'll just start off with the basic specs. So it's 44 millimeters, which is nominal, which is actually the case diameter, not the bezel diameter. The bezel's smaller. It's 200 meter divers, 200 meters, so it meets the ISO standard. It's ISO certified. So you can take this scuba diving under normal conditions, it will work absolutely fine. Fully solid stainless steel 3-link style bracelet, all brushed, with a special ratcheting deployant clasp, which has a mechanism here, a further set of levers or buttons, if you will, that you pull up and gives you on the fly adjustment. So it is a full ratcheting clasp. It does have an aluminium bezel. Well, or steel. It's definitely not ceramic, and it is a mineral crystal. It's not sapphire glass, unfortunately. But you can switch, I'm told you can switch this bezel out for an SKX 009, which is a Seiko reference, a very famous Seiko watch. And there's some suppliers online that do ceramic bezels that are interchangeable with this watch. Okay, let's start off with the size. Most people think 44mm is going to be too big, but let me tell you this now, this watch is absolute categorical proof that the diameter of the watch is only one factor in the overall feel and size of the watch. The other main things are the thickness and the lug to lug and the end link to end link, but there is another factor as well, and that is the overall case presence, the overall amount of steel for the case around the lugs, etc. Now I'll just show you something. So I've done some measurements before this review, and the measurements are 44mm measuring the case diameter, bang on 44mm, 42.9 to 43mm diameter bezel, 11.5mm thick, so it's very thin. It's a thin watch for a 200 meter diver. Definitely thin watch. Notice how the crystal is practically flush, if not lower than the bezel, which is excellent. I don't like domed crystals generally. I like them just flat. Lug to lug of 49, just under 49mm. But the main thing why this case, in my opinion, this watch feels so small, in my opinion, is because there is very small supporting case. The case is practically just the diameter of the bezel. It does not have, like this watch here, these watches, a big fat supporting case. So guess what? Even though this is a 40.5mm, this is a 40mm watch essentially, or 41mm, and this is a 44mm, but this watch feels bigger. I'm not kidding. And it feels bigger because of this bigger supporting case. All that extra steel there adds up. whereas this one does not have all that extra steel, and it's also thinner. This is probably about 12.5 mil. This is 11, so it's a millimetre thinner. So this feels unbelievably small on the wrist for what it is. It's unbelievable. I can't believe how small it is. It feels like a 40 mil watch. I'm not kidding. If you're used to wearing dive style watches, like, you know, this style, then you are going to think this feels very small. Well, feels a very similar size to, you know, a 40 mil in that style. So the sizing is excellent. It is unbelievably comfortable on wrist. Let's talk about the look and you know, the dial of the watch basically. So the dial is clearly a utilitarian diver style dial, if you will. Extremely compact, very minimalist. You know, you've got the orange minute hands, you know, to give it, but it's all compact, it's all kind of utilitarian, you know, utility over style, if you will, but it looks, in my opinion, I just love the way it looks. It has a kind of chunky style bezel that is kind of pressed into the watch almost. It feels like everything it feels like everything's being squeezed down. And just look at that loom there. The loom, by the way, is outstanding. It's easily as good as Seiko's. So the look of the watch is a straight up, you know, no bells and whistles. It is a straight up dive watch, and it has that dive feel 100%. The crown is located, and the crown is signed. The crown is located at the 4 o'clock position, which is excellent. It makes the watch comfier, in my opinion. Now the bezel, it's an interesting one. It feels completely different to the other kind of ones I've used recently. Yeah, it's moderately tough to turn. Unidirectional, practically zero back play, but it's not ceramic, so it will chip fairly easily. That is one downside. The pip is loomed. The alignment is fantastic. The alignment overall with the bezel, the chapter ring, everything is great. The seconds hand does not perfectly align on the left side, but very few watches that are quartz, essentially, because this is essentially a quartz watch, you know, solar quartz. Very few of them match up absolutely perfectly, but this does an excellent job. So the presentation, in my opinion, is, if you like the dive style, the casual kind of, you know, utilitarian dive style, then it has that in abundance. Obviously, it will be difficult to kind of dress this watch up because it is a real dive watch. It's a tool watch. I got it in the black. You can actually get it, I think, in the blue, and you can get it on a rubber band. And apparently the rubber band is very good. I've not tried it yet on the band. I am going to pick it up, but I've seen some prices online. They're nearly £60 for a rubber band, which is just ridiculous. But anyway, so the bezel is good. The presentation is very good. It feels incredibly sturdy. You've got the date functionality there. And obviously it is a solar watch. It is a solar watch. It charges with artificial fluorescent light and real light. It will last up to 6 months in a box with no light at all, I believe. And it will last years and years with normal room light, not with sufficient light. Now, it doesn't have a, well, it would be good if they could somehow give some kind of indication of how much battery's there, but ultimately these will last years and years. If they're anything like the Casios, you know, they can last a serious long time. Some of the Casios have lasted over 10 years. because then and even if they didn't last, you can just get a new battery off Citizen and swap it. So because obviously it's got a rechargeable battery inside of it. Now then, let's talk about the bracelet. Now the bracelet is again fairly outstanding. It is completely solid end links, solid links in the kind of 3-link style. It does have a pin and collar system, which I don't particularly like. There's a tiny little collar on them. I believe you'd call it a pin and collar system. I've lost one of the collars and I've told them to send me a new one. It is absolutely tiny. So it's, I'd prefer it if it was screws. I'd prefer it if it was just pins and didn't have a collar system, but unfortunately it does have that. Now, the bracelet is extremely comfortable. There's nothing on the bracelet that catches my wrist. Everything is lovely rounded off, as is the case. The case has nice taper in here, so it does not dig into the wrist when it's, in that area, as I'm going to show you soon. Now the clasp is again outstanding. It's excellent. It has big, thick, heavy-duty swing arms. Well, at least it does on that side. It is well made overall. Now, admittedly, the shell, even though it is well made, with the way it does work fine, you pull them up, you don't just push them. I thought you just pushed it in, but you don't. You actually pull them, you pull them up that way. You pull them up and then you pull out. And you can get 2mm micro adjust increments. Now, this is excellent. If you're a diver, now one thing I will say is that is a tiny bit flimsy. You wouldn't want to be really, using it at this setting all the time. But you're not going to be, in all honesty, no one's going to be using it at that setting. Unless you're literally diving and you've got your wetsuit on and you want to bang it onto that, then maybe you'll do it for an hour or so diving. But the vast majority of people are going to have it there or just on the first setting. And by the way, to just put it back in, you just don't engage with the push buttons things, and just push it in and you can get the setting. So that's the first setting. So that's about, what is that, about 2 or 3mm? I think that's the first setting. Yeah, it is. That's completely set in. Now, what I've realised is that as a non-diver and as someone who wears watches moderately, it has push buttons as well, and everything works absolutely perfectly. Very, very good engagement. I mean, the technology, this clasp, is that what I paid for this watch. I got this watch in a deal for less than 200 quid. I think it was 195 or 190. It is easily worth that. Absolutely easily worth that. It is my favourite diver, easily under 500 quid. Absolutely easily, probably under £1,000. It's my favourite diver. As an all-round watch, it is absolutely fantastic. It's just let down by the fact it's not got a ceramic or more durable bezel, and it's not got a sapphire crystal. So they're going to be moderately easy to scratch. Moderately. Citizen and Casio, with their mineral or whatever you call it, their acrylic, if you will, it is superior to other cheaper brands. Casio and Citizen are massive, formidable watch brands, and they know exactly what they're doing with watches. And it's not a completely, you've got mineral crystal, so it'll be a pile of crap, it'll scratch that easy. It's not like that. But those two things do let it down a tiny bit, but overall, just for this clasp alone, it's excellent. Nothing on it really catching the wrist. I'll just put it on. I'll just show you a wrist shot now. Absolutely beautiful. So easy and so legible. Just absolutely beautiful. So easy to read the time. It's just got everything going for it, this watch. It really does. And the price I think the price now is probably going to be about 250 to 300 quid if you can get it on the bracelet. if you can. I don't know, it's not super available. I was a bit lucky. I think it would probably be more than 200 quid now, probably more like 300 quid, something like that, or a bit more. But it is a fantastic watch. I could easily see them charging 500 quid for this, with what you get, because you can pay a similar price and get hollow end links, hollow links, a crappy, you know, tinny bracelet, tinny clasp. But they've really took it and tried to give you the full package. I just wish a little bit that this here just feels a little bit rattly, a tiny bit. Then again, that does feel quite sturdy actually, but you know, maybe it's because when it's at that setting, you know, you wouldn't have it at that setting frequently though, would you? Can you see inside the micro adjust slots? It's not focusing. Can you see that? Yeah. Now what I've realised though is that if you're not a diver, you are not going to really use these settings. Maybe the first setting to get the right fit, but anything more and it's going to look a bit funny on the wrist, that looks fine. It's just the first setting, I think. But you're really going to want to have it on the first setting if you can get the correct setting for your wrist. Yeah, so overall, and I've just remembered I've not shown you the case back, and I'll show it you quickly. It's pretty plain. I mean, it isn't an exhibition one, but it's a dive watch, so it won't have that. Has a kind of world engraving on it with Citizen. It has the watch brand. It'll probably say something like 200 meter diver. Japan movement. Yeah. I mean, just as an all-round watch, you could easily have this as a daily driver. It's comfortable enough, easily to go all day. It looks good. I mean, I wouldn't say it would look amazing with a suit, but you know, any bracelet watch you can wear with a suit, really. But it is a specific tool diver watch with a specific look. You know, it's not a dressy, but it just looks absolutely brilliant, and I am so glad I picked it up. It just shows what quality you can get out there at an affordable price. And anyone who buys them homage watches like I do from China, you know, Casio and Citizen, and to some degree Hamilton and Victorinox, they also hold their own in their own ways of making excellently utilitarian and excellent performance for a cheap price. I'm using below 500 quid for Victorinox as a cheap price. Now that's not really cheap. A lot of people will never pay 500 quid for a watch, but you know, luxury watches go above 5 grand, they go to 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand, ridiculous prices where the value is, you know, practically non-existent, but you're just paying for the brand and the whole social status thing. It's a fashion icon ultimately, a watch, but these watches are not. This is an actual tool watch that has been designed for a purpose, for a diver. Even though most divers nowadays, most professional ones, would have a dive computer which looks like a mini tablet on your wrist, they will have probably a dive watch and a dive computer as backup, or the dive computer first and then the watch as backup. But anyway, so overall, this is one of my favourite watches that I've ever reviewed. It is a fantastic all-round watch. I'm really glad I picked it up. I'm going to switch the bezel out for a ceramic or sapphire bezel, but I do prefer ceramic than sapphire. I think ceramic look better. So, like that, that's a ceramic bezel. And that looks absolutely bang on. Obviously, there's no affiliate link for this watch. There is for this one though. But yeah, there's no affiliate link, but if you want to check it out, I'll put a link to Citizen's website. Obviously, have a look on Price Runner to see if you can pick it up cheap, or eBay and Amazon. They get deals all the time, that kind of thing. Yeah, but it does show the quality of what you can get without paying rip-off prices. That was only cost me about 200 quid, and that is a fantastic watch. Thanks a lot for checking my channel out. Please smash the subscribe button. Please leave a comment down below and leave a like. Nice one. It's been Dave.